Hello, friends and neighbors. This is Becky coming to you Saturday night. Just got back in from a walk where I was just, contemplating life, and really hit my heart to come back and talk to you about some physical conditions and spiritual conditions that are related to torticollis, strokes, and hemiplegia or fractures in one side of the body. So, what do these all have in common? The main thing they have in common is that one side of the body works, one side doesn't, which both these really impair a person's ability to kind of get around, to do a lot of things in life. Years ago, I came up kind of with a theory that I called, do you have a torticollis ministry? So let me explain torticollis a little bit more before I go into that. But torticollis, it comes from a baby sometimes if they get too big in utero, and so they get all scrunched, and so their head's kind of scrunched over to one side and they're turned, and it's to the point that they can only see one side of their body. So as far as that baby's concerned, they've never seen the other side, so they don't think they even have another side. They don't move it, they don't use it until you kind of make them see it and use it. If you get torticollis severely enough, if their head's twisted far enough, it can actually kind of twist the esophagus, how you get your food down to your stomach, twisted enough that basically every time they eat, they throw it back up. If it's really bad and they're turned hard enough, it can even cause a hip to pop out of joint, which means, they can get that taken care of, but, it's not a lot of fun. Now you go up to somebody who's had a stroke, and you've got strokes that either affect one side of the brain or the other. And I, of course, consulted our good friend Google, and because people will respond differently if they've had a stroke on the left side of the brain versus the right. And what I got from Google, because I just want to make sure I said this right, I know this from my work, but I want to make sure I'm saying it right. The primary difference between a left side and right side stroke is which side of the body is affected and specific cognitive behavioral functions impaired. As the brain controls the opposite side of the body, the left brain stroke typically causes right-sided paralysis, speech and language issues, while a right side brain stroke causes left-sided paralysis, spatial awareness problems, and behavioral changes. So we got torticollis, stroke, fractures. You get somebody that's got a broken arm and a broken leg on the same side. It's kind of self-explanatory. Walking is kind of out of the question. Being able just even to turn to sit up on the side of the bed gets tricky. And life just pretty much becomes inconvenient. It's even hard to really push a wheelchair if you only have one arm and one leg. We work on teaching that, but I can tell you it's tricky. So, what does that have to do with the Bible? So, let me fill you in on a verse, on a passage that has been a favorite of mine probably since my first year being a physical therapist, because it's what kind of showed me that how important the whole body is. Not just part of it, the whole body. So in 1 Corinthians 12, and I'll start verse 12, just as the body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For all were baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, while the presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has put the body together, giving greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. So, we all have, left and right side of our body, and everybody's going to have a dominant side. And actually, you can have a dominant eye, dominant arm, dominant leg, and they don't even have to be all the same. You could have a dominant right eye, be left-handed, and right-footed. Vice versa. You could have, right hand, right-footed, and left-eyed. And there are ways to test for that, but you can ask me if you really want to know more about that. And then there are people who are what we call ambidextrous, where they can use both sides of the body equally, and they do have special talents, that is for sure. There are some people who, I've heard it said, can start writing with their left hand, reach midline, and continue writing with the right hand. Lots of fun things. With all of these, there isn't anything really wrong with any one of them. In fact, there's been different opinions as to whether or not somebody who is ambidextrous, if they should be taught to keep using both sides of the body equally for everything, or if they should train one side of the body to be stronger for certain things, because if the brain doesn't find different places to be strong in and develop that, it causes more problems. Because in all these also, one of the most important things that needs to happen is being able to cross midline. Right hand needs to be able to go to the left hand needs to be able to go to the right. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you can't cross midline. So basically, what does this have to do with Christianity? We can get so focused on certain things in our life, certain strengths, certain behaviors. We can get so focused on those that we kind of forget there's even another side. You don't want to be so totally all one way or the other, because you miss out on just a whole lot. You can't function with always doing everything with both sides, because then you're not really completing anything as well as you could. You do have to get specialized. You do have to be able to specialize with certain things, but you can't forget the others out there. I think it's kind of significant that the way that Jesus died is both hands and both feet were nailed to the cross. It's kind of like somebody said, no, we're going to make sure the whole thing goes down. No chance of any part of this surviving. So basically, find what your gifts are, because actually right before we talk about all the different parts of the body. Paul also talks about our different spiritual gifts. And in verse 4, it says there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in every one, it is the same God at work. So, I encourage you, take a minute, find what you're, really know what your gifting is and how you can best use it. But don't forget, there's a lot of other stuff out there too. You don't have to be perfect at everything. And I've got a treatise here helping me with that. Here, buddy. Just so y'all can see my big guy. You don't have to be great at everything. But just remember, there's a lot more out there, a lot more to see than if you keep the blinders on one side or the other. So, hope this makes sense to y'all. And thanks for listening. Drop a comment, like, share. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.